Peace, love, and prosperity to all of humanity on planet Earth. This is Sultan Abdul Al Kabir, Sultan of the Empire of Morocco, as distinguished from the fraudulent claimant, Kendon Bey, who achieved the title based on a coup d'etat or failed coup d'etat and the subsequent so called special elections. That has been struck down as void ab initio and notwithstanding. Today, we'll be talking about um, it's a message to the black man, the black nation, the brothers, the sisters, the children, um, with a focus on the men. Yes, I'll be talking to you. It's time to stand up. It's time to stand up and start to. It's time for you to start to look at other alternatives to solve the problems within the black community because it's all on you. No one is coming to save you. Not Jesus, not Muhammad, not Malcolm X, not Trump, nobody. This is the principle of self determination. Uh, it's apparent that you have surrendered, you have acquiesced, and it's only because you don't know what you don't know. We have been, like Brother Il Malik has said before, Il Malik Shabazz, we have been hoodwinked, bamboozled, and led astray to believing we're someone else. A loss of knowledge of self. We were stripped of our nationality and divine creed, rendering us as three-fifths human beings. It is your nationality and your divine creed, who you are as a people, which is much more important than some voting mechanism within the US jurisdiction because you shouldn't be voting for them anyway. I mean, let's think about it. Are you not voting for your oppression because or continued oppression and really colonialism? Because who else has went against the status quo ever? Certainly not Obama. Certainly not him. He made matters worse for the so-called black community. I'm sorry to say it, and I'm gonna say it. I don't I don't live in a politically correct world. I live in a say it like it is world. And in that world, Obama has feminized the black man. Therefore, it's time to man up. It's time to reverse the effects. And it starts with knowledge of self. Let me begin by reading my second correspondence to President Donald J. Trump as the Sultan of Morocco. This will be the second correspondence, my second Sharifian communique. Whereas my first attempt went unanswered. And previous attempts, while dabbling with AMPAC 2.0, those attempts also went unanswered. Our attempts to communicate with the United Nations from the beginning has went unanswered. They're staying away from this conversation, but it's up to us to force the conversation, not accept the silence, but bring the noise. Pull out your political bullhorn, not on the streets marching and praying with bullhorns. Your political bullhorn is your pen. Let's see some of it in action, shall we? Office of the Sultan of Morocco, capital address, which is really the return address because the capital address is Al Maghrib Al Aqsa, the far west. Capital address 289 Jonesboro Road, PMB 106, McDonough, Georgia, 30253. Let me point something out with this. so-called address, while others have been promoting this idea to collect evidence, so-called collect evidence for the ICJ. And in doing so, the people are subject to injuries because he said somebody got to take one for the team so that we can gather evidence for the ICJ. Wrong answer, we're not going to the ICJ. And it's putting the Moors in harm's way. The evidence is the address. That's the evidence of the truth and fact that the so-called black man in America is exiled on his own homeland. And particularly for us as the government officials and the competent authority of this territory, our government is in exile. We don't have a mean to establish a so-called address assessed to the empire just yet. But hold up. The United States of America is in Morocco. They're part of the great fabric. Therefore, in all actuality, that is our address. It belongs to the empire. However, that's not recognized as such on a national, from a national perspective. So that renders us to a government in exile. You see, we're sovereign by right. As a people, we're sovereign by right, but constrained by circumstances, especially, specifically speaking, the Moxen, the Empire of Morocco. It's sovereign by right, but constrained by circumstances. Much of those circumstances deals with the lack of unity amongst us as a people. This is a unified front, y'all. Unity, loyalty, conformity, and obedience to achieve the goal of self-determination, or i.e., sovereignty and independence. But we just can't help ourselves. we can't help ourselves. We got to interfere with one another. We've got to become obstructionists. We have to self-destruct, self-implode. That's part of the program. But I'm not having it, and the empire ain't having it. We will push forward. And then continuing on, I just wanted to make clear this so-called address. It's the proof of extraterritoriality and that we as a government are in exile on our own land and as a people. The second Sharifian communique, a call for diplomatic relations and the fulfillment of sacred trusts. Empire of Morocco, Office of His Majesty, of His Sharifian Majesty, Sultan Abdul Smith Al Kabir, Al Maghrib Al Aqsa, the Far West, 23 July 2026, my solar return. The Honorable Donald J. Trump, 47th President of the United States of America, the White House, 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue, Northwest, Washington, D.C., 20500. Your Excellency, I write to you once again as His Majesty Sultan Abdul Al Kabir, the legitimate and reigning sovereign of the reinstated Empire of Morocco. As the 250th anniversary of the United States of America has been reached, I am moved to reflect on the profound historical bond between our nations, a bond initiated by your first president, George Washington, under the leadership of my ancestor and predecessor, Sultan Sidi Muhammad. It is on the foundations of this historic relationship that I now address you. And I note with deep concern that my previous Sharifian communique sent in April of 2026 has gone unanswered for nearly 4 months. This cannot continue. A shared struggle against radical factions. Listen, in our ongoing battle against those, in your ongoing battle against those you refer to as the radical left Democrat, I see a reflection of my own struggle against the radical left faction known as AMPAC 2.0, led by the seditious and treasonous J. Bay, ex-rel, Jermaine Diaz Spencer. Just as you faced relentless opposition from those who seek to undermine your legitimacy and destroy your movement, I have faced a seditious conspiracy from a faction that attempted to overthrow the constitutional order of the Moorish Empire. Both our enemies employ the same tactics, slander, fraud, and the weaponization of governmental institutions against their political opponents. They seek to delegitimize the sovereign will of the people and to impose their own agenda through corruption and collusion. I recognize in your fight a kindred spirit, and I believe that we share a common destiny to overcome the entrenched forces that seek to destroy our nations from within and to restore the sovereign authority of the people. Interestingly enough, Your Excellency, the Radical Impact 2.0 faction is in alignment with the ideals of the radical left Democrats that oppose your administration. And as I've stated before, you can find the proof in their YouTube channel, Impact Media, specifically Study Session 191, in which an image of you was used depicting you in a not so favorable fashion. Keep an eye out for communication from this radical faction if it hasn't already happened. There will purport to be the legitimate empire under an installed puppet, the fraudulent claimant, Camden Bay. Be advised, Mr. President, the legal implication of silence. In the framework of international law, we must be mindful that the silence of a state in response to a formal diplomatic communication can, under certain circumstances, be interpreted as tacit acquiescence. The principle of he who keeps silent is held to consent if he must and can speak is a long-standing tenet of international jurisprudence. While the United States may not respond to every diplomatic note, the continuing lack of reply to my official correspondence, particularly one from His Majesty the Sultan invoking binding treaty obligations, may one day be used as evidence of consent in a future international forum. A historic debt and a present duty. Your nation's existence as a sovereign power was recognized by the Empire of Morocco under Sultan Sidi Mohammed, a recognition that predates the ratification of the U.S. Constitution and was confirmed through the Treaty of Peace and Friendship of 1786-1836. That treaty established the United States of America as a sovereign power, benefiting from the diplomatic recognition and protection from the Moorish Empire. It is now your nation's turn to reciprocate that same diplomatic respect and to honor the sacred trust it assumed in its own founding documents. As the United States celebrates 250 years of independence, it is incumbent upon its leadership to remember that its journey began with recognition from the Moorish Empire. I call upon you to demonstrate the same statesmanship and foresight as your predecessors by engaging with the Moroccan Empire on the issue of decolonization to reestablish peace and friendship between our nations according to the treaty, whilst the empire and the Moors shall remain the sovereigns on the land, the far west. Your obligation under international law. The decolonization process is not a matter of discretion. It is a legal obligation imposed by the Charter of the United Nations. Article 73 of the Charter recognizes the principles that the interests of the peoples of non-self-governing territories are paramount and accept as a sacred trust the obligation to promote their well-being and self-government. Furthermore, UN Resolution 1514, the landmark, quote, Declaration on the Granting of Independence to Colonial Countries and Peoples, unquote, adopted in 1960, declares that, quote, all peoples have an inalienable right to complete freedom, the exercise of their sovereignty, and the integrity of their national territory, close quote. This declaration has been recognized as the Magna Carta of decolonization and was crystallized into customary international law, creating binding obligations on all states, including the United States. Complementing this foundational declaration, UN Resolution 1654, adopted on November 27, 1961, established the Special Committee on the Situation with regard to the implementation of the Declaration on the Granting of Independence to Colonial Countries and Peoples, now known as the C-24, or the Special Committee on Decolonization. This resolution created the mechanism for turning the promise of Resolution 1514 into reality and indicated, quote, clearly that the tide was turning away from the sort of national control over dependent territories that had been enshrined in the Western drafted UN Charter toward a more universalist and globalist conception, unquote, end quote. Resolution 1614 provided the institutional framework for the United Nations to actively monitor and accelerate the decolonization process, recognizing that, quote, advancement in the non self governing territories had not kept pace with events, unquote, and that, quote, nothing could justify the slightest delay in the application of the decolonization measures provided for in General Assembly Resolution 1514, unquote. The United States, as a signatory to the UN Charter and a participant in the adoption of these resolutions, is bound by these obligations. As the administering power responsible for territories whose people have not yet attained a full measure of government, the United States has a sacred trust under Article 73 to develop self government, to take due account of the political aspirations of the peoples, and to assist them in the progressive development of their free political institutions. The time has come to assist the Moors and the Moorish Empire as it passes through the varying stages of decolonization reforms. This is not a request for a favor, but a demand for the fulfillment of a lawful directive issued by the international community as a means to emphasize self determination. Be advised that the Moors and the Moorish Empire has come to knowledge of self. As such, we are not dependent on the Special Committee on Decolonization C24 to recognize the Far West as a non self governing territory. As a result, I note for the record that I, Sultan Abdul Al Kabir, under the sovereign will of the Moors and the Constitution of the Empire of Morocco, do hereby recognize this territory in which the United States resides as a non self governing territory subject to decolonization, the rising of the Moors. Throughout the United States, Black people would begin rising to reclaim their true nationality as Moors and their sovereign heritage in Al Maghrib al Aqsa, the Far West, which is the ancestral lands of the Moorish Empire and in which the United States resides. We are a government in exile upon our own land, a people who have been disposed, renamed, and forced into the status of naturalized Americans under a foreign jurisdiction. Yet we have never relinquished our sovereign rights. Instead, we were hoodwinked and led astray. The Empire of Morocco, restored under my leadership, is the lawful government of these lands, and we are now reclaiming our subjects, Black people in American jurisdiction, who have been systematically denied their true nationality and divine creed. The oppressors who have kept us bound to a foreign nationality, which have suppressed our culture and erased our history, will not be able to keep us down forever. The truth of who we are is rising, and no force can stop the tide of self determination. Moreover, under Article 15 of the Treaty of Madrid of 1880, the Sharifian Empire established the sovereign right to reclaim its subjects who were naturalized abroad without the consent of the Sultan. The United States, as a signatory to that treaty and as a nation that ratified its provisions, is obligated by international law to recognize the authority and to recognize this authority and to allow the repatriation of its citizens of Moorish descent without any interruptions. The path forward to cooperation. For these reasons, I formally inform you that your administration's continued failure to respond will be considered a matter of public record and will be used to underscore my position in future international engagements. Furthermore, I will not cease in my efforts to communicate with other governments, international organizations, and the media, both international and domestic, to bring awareness to our cause and to ensure that the Moorish Empire is recognized as a sovereign equal among nations as we raise the question of Morocco to the international community. Accordingly, I hereby establish a formal timeline for your administration's response to this Sharifian communique. You are granted a period of 30 days from the date of this communication to provide a formal written response acknowledging receipt of this document and indicating your administration's position regarding the matters raised herein. Failure to respond within this prescribed period shall be entered into the official record of the Moxen of the Empire as evidence of tacit acquiescence to the sovereign claims and treaty obligations set forth in this communication. Furthermore, such silence shall be construed as confirmation that the United States does not contest the Moorish Empire's assertion of sovereignty over the far west, nor does it challenge the validity of the Treaty of Peace and Friendship of 1786, 1836, the Treaty of Madrid of 1880, or the General Act of Algeciras of 1906. This timeline is not a request. It's a formal diplomatic requirement consistent with the principles of international law and the long-standing tradition of sovereign to sovereign communication. I remain hopeful that you will seize this opportunity to demonstrate the strength of character and the historical awareness that your office demands. The 250th anniversary of the United States offers a unique opportunity to return to the principles of mutual recognition and sovereignty that first established the relationship between our nations under peace, friendship, security, and economic cooperation, with a view to the upliftment of fallen humanity and the sacred maintenance of human rights, respectfully and in peace, given under our hand and the seal of our office. Abdul Smith Al Kabir, His Sharifian Majesty, Sovereign of the Moorish Empire, Al Maghrib Al Aqsa, the Far West, 23 July 2026. And we CC'd the Honorable J.D. Vance, the Vice President, and the Honorable Marco Rubio, the Secretary of State. And so, Black man, this is for you to understand that we have been the only people on planet Earth that are being ruled by foreigners. You really got to think about this. There's not many other people on planet Earth that are being ruled by foreigners and that distinctly look different than you. Like they're like pale, right? They're not white. White is white, black is black. At any rate, they're still Caucasians. We did not land on Plymouth Rock. Plymouth Rock landed on us. Christopher Columbus came over here, right? Your ancestors built that White House. So what's being proposed here is self-determination. And so there's already an entity working on behalf of your self-determination. That entity is your ancient country known as the Empire of Morocco, the Moorish Empire, the Moroccan Empire, the Sharifian Empire. Choose one, whichever one fits best for you. It's all the same. It's an ancient empire that extends North, Central, South America, all over Europe, as we see here with this particular treaty we're getting ready to look into. The International Conference of Algeciras. There's 12 signatory powers that are subordinate signatory powers to your ancient empire, your ancient country. When you talk about the Illuminati secret, the Masonic secrets, the secret society secrets, this is it right here. Who you are. Show you something, Morris. This is a book here called uh 10 Years of Secret Diplomacy. Right. You guys, we've looked at it before. What's the title? This is your reference. 10 Years of Secret Diplomacy. Let's go into straight to the table of contents where I just was. Let's take a look at a couple of things. Pique your interest to research the book, gain clarity as to who you are, your knowledge of self. Uh, should have kept it at the. I didn't realize I forgot this thing was so long. The forward and all that stuff. Okay, so here's the contents. Uh, ex, ex, explanatory of the respective attitude towards Morocco. of the four interested powers, Britain, France, Spain, Germany, prior to the events of the past decade. So Britain and Morocco. See, black man, you can't spell Morocco without more, right? Morocco. France and Morocco, Spain and Morocco, Germany and Morocco. Now, don't get it twisted. Everybody, don't get it twisted. Don't think Britain, France, Spain, Germany. Don't think white folks. It's one of the biggest mistakes we've been making in our lifetime. Don't think white folks. Think of the black nobility of Europe. These are black countries and kingdoms. Period. Now we have these proxy white folks, Macron, Trump, whoever, whatever. Because even the United States is might throw the black man off, but let's just say that the first president of the Continental Congress was John Hanson, and he was a Moor. He was a black man. At any rate, the Act of Algeciras, the public law of Europe regulating the international position of Morocco and its violations. So the Act of Algeciras, you got a whole chapter, chapter 6. The crucial article of the Act of Algeciras, chapter 7. The progressive violation of the Act of Algeciras. The French policy towards the Moorish government, chapter 9. Right? The French policy towards the Moorish government, one of which had to do with the much later down the line, but the French government sought to depose the Sultan, and they did depose the Sultan to Corsica and Madagascar. Fast forward to 2026, we got this little stubborn radical left faction known as AMPAC 2.0 that are seeking to depose me as well. I mean, as they say, if you don't learn, you've got to learn history, otherwise you'll be doomed to repeat it. And it's not going to work. There's Wi-Fi in Panama. So it's not going to make a difference. It doesn't matter. It's a waste of time. AMPAC 2.0, Germany's first intervention, so on and so forth. So this is showing you the international scope of who the black man really is, who and what the so-called black nation really is. It's an empire, Moroccan empire. Can I have a reader real quick here? So this right here is the Act of Algeciras, which is the United States copy. So as you see here, signed at Algeciras 1906, April 7, 1906. Ratification, you see, ratification advised by the Senate on December 12th. Ratified by the President of the United States on December 14th, 1906. Ratification deposited with the Spanish government December 31st. Proclaimed on January 22nd, 1907, which is this actual document. This is the proclamation by President Roosevelt. This is what you call, this process is what's called the constitutional procedures of accepting a treaty. So when you sign into a treaty and you accept the treaty, this is how you accept the treaty. You bring it to the internal state to go through its constitutional legal procedures to make it part of a fabric of the country's internal laws. All right. Real quick, can I get a quick reader for this proclamation, this beginning part of the proclamation?
One minute, I'll go ahead and read for you, Sultan. A proclamation. Whereas a general act and an additional protocol was concluded and signed on April 7th, 1906 by the plenipotentiary of the United States of America, Germany, Austria-Hungary, Belgium, Spain, France, Great Britain, Italy, the Netherlands, Portugal, Russia, and Sweden, the originals of which General Act and additional protocol being in the French language are words as follow.
Okay, thank you right there, good brother. So then it goes into the provisions of the treaty. The left is in French, the right is in English. But who are the signatory powers? Let's examine that again. The United States of America, Germany, Austria Hungary, Belgium, Spain, France, Great Britain, Italy, the Netherlands, Portugal, Russia, and Sweden. I'll say it again. Don't get it twisted. I know in our minds we see white folks. No. Moors, black people. Black people are Moors. The black Moors. The correct term is Moor. The incorrect, derogatory term is black, which is civil little mortus. It leads you to a position in which a status in which now you're dead in the eyes of the law. But to speak from a perspective to be clearly understood, you'll be hearing the words fly out of my mouth. But I'm also warning you that that's not the correct um, identity. It is a identity of death, black. At any rate, Germany, black nobility. Austria-Hungary, black nobility. Belgium, black nobility. Spain, France, Great Britain, Italy, the Netherlands, black nobility. Portugal, Russia. That big pretty building he calls the Kremlin, that's Moorish architecture. And Sweden, all that, Moors, is the Empire of Morocco. All of Europe. These are not, who you think built the Leaning Tower of Pisa? And why they can't build it no more? Who built the Eiffel Tower? It was not the white population there. It was the ancient indigenous peoples of those lands, which look like you. All right. Uh, we'll touch briefly on a few little things. Uh, this is the active object series again, so I'm giving reference points so that you can go back on your own. I can't sit through and teach a whole. I've already done that. You can look at the Empire of Morocco media channel on YouTube. We've already covered the entire active object series. But let's look at some of the. Let's briefly look at the chapters. Um, Chapter 1, a declaration relative to the organization of the police. 2, a regulation concerning the detection and repression of the contraband of arms. We have control over the police. We have control over the arms. 3, an act of concession for a Moroccan state bank. We have control over the banking system. 4, a declaration concerning a better return of taxes and the creation of new revenues. We collect taxes and create new revenues. So why are you so poor and disenfranchised in poverty on welfare, black man? Because you know not what you don't know. 6, a declaration relative to public services and public works. Um, it's what the treaty consists of. So Article 1, real quick. The conference summoned by His Majesty the Sultan. So the Sultan uh, summoned this conference. So the Sultan told France, Germany, Italy, Great Britain, Austria-Hungary, Russia, all of them, you're summoned. Come on down to the to the office. The diplomatic, was it the diplomatic body at the time? 1906. I am summoning you to uh study and understand this treaty and then ratify it. Because I'm the sovereign of the land, a Moorish sultan, a black sultan, an African sultan. Can't say African American. Can't even do that. I can't do that part. I'll say African. I'll say black. I can't say African American. That is beyond egregious. Thank Jesse Jackson, by the way. He gave me that egregious. I mean, that's just absolutely ridiculous. African American. At any rate, this was a melanated sultan, dark skinned sultan. In other words, he is not a white guy or Turkish or Arab. He's black. Okay. So he summoned all these countries to organize the police. So let's read it again. The conference summoned by His Majesty the Sultan to pronounce on the measures necessary to organize the police declares that the following provisions should be made. The police shall be under the sovereign authority of His Majesty the Sultan, period. Let that marinate, let that sink in for a minute, because we got a lot of police brutality stuff going on. When we have control over the police. It shall be recruited by the Moxen from Moorish Mohammedans, commanded by Moorish Cades, and distributed in the 8 ports open to commerce. This is you, black man. You're the Moorish Mohammedan and the Moorish Cades. They're supposed to recruit and supervise the police. Again, we have been bamboozled, hoodwinked, led astray, led away from this authority straight into the projects. Crack cocaine and such. I hope I'm painting this picture. Just to touch on that, there's so much more. But we'll get back down to where the proclamation is, because I'm really trying to show you the proclamation. Uh, every captain of a merchant or merchantman coming from a foreign or a Moorish port. So why is there Moorish in here? There's term Moorish is in here, I think 48 times. They're constantly talking about us, Moors. Black man. They just call you by your proper nationality in these documents, and it goes over your head because you don't know your proper nationality. All right. Okay. Here we are at the bottom. So this is obviously the additional protocols and the proclamation. So he read the beginning of the proclamation. In between is the actual text to the treaty. And then at the end of it, after the signature page, right, which is these are all the countries that ratified it, right? Great Britain, France, Italy, Morocco. Well, Morocco didn't even sign. Netherlands, Portugal, Russia, Sweden, etc. Then we go into the rest of his proclamation. Go ahead, brother Buck. Or anyone else who might be available.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought I was still off mute. I was reading and didn't know I was muted. All right, let me start over. And whereas the said General Act and additional protocol were signed by the plenipotentiaries of the United States of America under reservations of the following declaration. The government of the United States of America, having no political interest in Morocco
The
and
government
no
of the United States of America have no political interest in Morocco.
right and no
Period. Go ahead,
yep
bro.
and no desire or purpose having animated it to take part in this conference other than to secure for all peoples the widest equality of trade and privileges with Morocco, and to
So,
facilitate.
so pause right there. So they want to secure the widest equality of trade and privileges with who?
Morocco.
Because the United States is where?
Yeah, come on.
Where's the United States?
I'm in a meeting. Yeah.
Anyone else? Anyone? Is anyone? Where's the United States? More than anyone on the call? It doesn't have
Okay.
to be but.
I hear you.
No, I hear. I know. I'm speaking to the whole floor because I'm trying to wake them up. They're snoozing on me a little bit here. Am I being paid attention to now? Keep in mind this is for uh, recording purposes with residual value, but nonetheless, I've got people on the call, so I try to engage them as you all understand how I move. So, where is the United States of America? Where is America?
Morocco.
Period. Continue, brother. And to facilitate,
Excuse me. And to facilitate the institution of reforms in that country tending to ensure complete cordiality of intercourse without and stability of administration within for the common good, declares that in acquiescing in the regulations and declarations of the conference and becoming a signatory to the General Act of Algeciras and to the additional protocol subject to ratification according to constitutional procedures
okay, so
and
that's what I was telling y'all earlier when it
Mhm.
says that the Senate ratified, advised it, and the president ratified it and then proclaimed it. That's the constitutional procedures that I'm talking about. Just for clarity.
Mhm.
Continue, brother.
And in accepting the application of those regulations and declarations to American citizens and interest in Morocco. It
Okay.
does.
Okay, you see what he said. And in accepting the application of those regulations and declarations to American citizens, you're not the Aboriginal, Indigenous, Native American. That's a foreign jurisdiction. The land is Morocco. You're a native Moroccan, Aboriginal Moroccan, however you want to put it, Indigenous Moroccan. The land is Morocco. America, I don't care how you want to spell it, Marukan, it's not the name of the territory. It is Morocco. Al Maghrib Al Aqsa. They even refer to it as Al Morocco, Al Maroc. Everybody knows that except you, black man, and it's systematically so, and it's meant to be so. So wake up. It's time to wake up. It's not being woke, it's being awakened to who you are, not some radical left Democrat woke. That's another aspect of the bamboozling that keeps taking place against the black man. It's a constant bamboozle attack. Talking about some woke. It ain't woke. Where'd that come from? It's the awakened consciousness of a nation of people coming together. That's the rise of the black messiah that J. Edgar Hoover sought to suppress and was successful. Still has been successful. But the rose shall grow through concrete, and it's growing. You're talking to the roses, the Empire of Morocco. Islam, continue, brother.
It does so without assuming obligations or responsibility for the enforcement thereof.
So they don't have the responsibility of enforcing this treaty. Who has the responsibility of enforcing this treaty?
Morocco.
Period. The Moors in their proper state and with their nationality restored so that it now can have effect because otherwise it's obsolete without effect. We'll touch on that. Continue.
And whereas in giving its advice and consent to the ratification of the said General Act and additional protocol, the Senate of the United States resolved, as a part of this act of ratification, that the Senate understands that the participation of the United States in the Algiers Conference and in the formulation and adoption of the General Act and Protocol which result therefrom was with the sole purpose of preserving and increasing its commerce in Morocco, the protection as to life, liberty, and property of its citizens residing
Okay,
or
hold right there. And you know I'm not gonna let you gloss over that. So what was the reason that he gave to the Senate for ratifying the treaty? With the sole purpose of preserving and increasing its commerce in
commerce.
Morocco.
Mhm.
In order to do so, they must do what though? Pay taxes and additional revenues that the government of the empire chooses to impose upon them. And this is the reason why, black man, they don't want you to know that you're a Moor, that you're a Moroccan, and that your intelligence and wisdom and your wit, your spiritual intelligence, by the way, as well, your spiritual memory, your DNA memory, they don't want that coming back because now they got to pay you taxes. Mm. And again, this is the reason for the bamboozling, the hoodwinking, and the leading astray. Continue, brother.
Residing or traveling therein, and of aiding by its friendly offices and efforts in removing friction and controversy which seem to menace the peace between the power signatory with the United States to the Treaty of 1880, all of which are on terms of amity with this government, and without purpose to depart from the traditional American foreign policy which forbids participation by the United States in the settlement of political questions which are entirely European in their scope.
Period. We don't want that.
Right.
And they already know that. It's it's Moroccan in its scope. It's not European or American, but they are admitting to the fact that their political questions, which are their policies, their politics, are entirely European in its scope. But again, don't get it twisted. Who are the real Europeans? Who are the real Europeans?
Morris, melanated people.
What do they call them? The black nobility.
Exactly.
Continue, brother.
And whereas the said General Act and additional protocol were duly ratified by the government of the United States of America and of the other powers aforesaid, and by His Majesty the Sultan of Morocco. And
Okay,
whereas,
so this is who just sent them a letter. You see how he just honored His Majesty the Sultan of Morocco? 1907. Well, fast forward 2026, His Sharifian Majesty the Sultan Abdul Al Kabir sent him a second communication to settle this colonial problem based in diplomatic relations in the fulfillment of a sacred trust imposed on them by what? Article 73 of the Declaration regarding non-self-governing territories. We'll touch on that in a second. Uh, Here we are with this problem. Let's go here. Okay, let's continue finishing off this read.
And whereas in pursuance of Article 121 of the said General Act, the ratification of the said General Act and additional protocol of his all the signatory powers were deposited with the government of His Majesty the King of Spain on December 31st, 1906, thereby constituting a valid exchange of the ratification thereof.
That's the procedures. That's the diplomatic procedures of ratifying and accepting a treaty to include your constitutional procedures of your internal, the internal um, laws of your country that accepted said treaty. So it's more than just signing it. You also have to deposit it with the hosting nation, which in this case was Spain, Algeciras. Continue, brother.
Now, therefore, be it known that I, Theodore Roosevelt, President of the United States of America, have caused the said General Act and additional protocol to be made public to the end that the same and every article and clause thereof may be observed and fulfilled with good faith by the United States and the
Pause
citizens.
right there. Pause right there. Moors, black man, wake up. Wake up to who you are. Because he just said, now, therefore, be it known that I, Theodore Roosevelt, President of the United States of America, have caused and said, has caused the said General Act and additional protocol to be made public to the end that the same and every article and clause thereof may be observed and fulfilled with good faith by the United States and the citizens thereof. So the current president, Donald J. Trump, is obligated to that same to that same responsibility of what? Um, Adhering to every article and clause of this particular treaty, which has given you all types of power, Morris. Black man, continue.
Subject to the reservation made in the aforesaid declaration of the plenipotentiaries of the United States and to the resolution of the Senate, in witness whereof I have hereunto set my hand and caused the seal of the United States of America to be hereunto affixed, done at the city of Washington this 22nd day of January in the year of our Lord 1907, and of the independence of the United States of America the 131st, by the President Theodore Roosevelt, Lahu Root, Secretary of State.
Gratitude. Elihu Root. We got a Moorish teacher named Elihu Pleasant Bay. Elihu is a Moorish name. Um, and he probably was a Moor. Ain't no telling. Man, you can't listen. Got to be careful with this history. They whitewash everything. So, the president of the United States in 1906 just told everyone this is a public proclamation. The purpose of the United States and the responsibilities of the United States, which then that exact same language can be applied to the current president of the United States. They are bound to this treaty. Now let's move on to what's called the expatriation document. We've covered it before. I'm being redundant in the voice of Taj Tariq Bey. I'm being redundant. Mr. Philip, Charge d'Affaires, to Mr. Root, Secretary of State, August 3rd, 1906. What was his name? So he appears on the proclamation for the treaty in 1906, but then has a diplomatic correspondence with his Charge d'Affaires, Mr. Philip Hoffman Philip, in that same year. Mr. Root, Secretary of State. This was at the American legation. So it was, 1906, it was at the legation. the diplomatic body of the empire, which then became what? The League of Nations, which then became the United Nations. It's all Moorish law, Moroccan law. The United Nations is based on Moroccan law. Black man, you're Moroccan. The United Nations is using your laws while you're too busy doing one or two things. Either cooking, cooking on the stove, right? Which is alchemy. This is very interesting. Crack is alchemy. That's how you're that's an alchemical transformation. Or you're too busy taking contracts, selling out the rest of your people with your uh, sports contracts, your music contracts, your entertainment contracts. Either you're selling drugs to your people or you're entertaining the white man. You're part of the circus show, the hip hop Hollywood entertainment circus show, athlete Duncan reverse windmill circuit show. We have been relegated to court jesters, entertaining the foreign power on your own homeland, and you don't even know it because you think you came from Africa. Well, let's see what actually happened to you. Sir, there are strictly speaking no Moroccan laws relating to citizenship of Moorish subjects in Morocco. The Moorish subjects is you, black man. See, that's the part that's difficult to recognize because you didn't see African, you didn't see Negro, black, colored, or African American. You see that, you automatically lock in with the understanding. You don't see that, you disregard it or don't take it serious. But the Moors are the black people. The black people are the Moors. Therefore, there's a word called blackamoor. Period. I mean, and that ain't nothing about no myrrh and more. We ain't nothing about no myrrh. It's more. In the treaties and everywhere else that gives us authority and power, it's more. You can't spell Morocco without more. It's not Morocco. It's Morocco. And that's the authority on this land. I'm speaking to the Mer people, the Mers, the so-called American Mers. You're not American. America's a foreign jurisdiction. This uh, proclamation was talking about the American citizens following the laws of following Moroccan law. You are the Moroccan law, not the American citizen. We got a lot of cleaning up to do. There's a identity crisis going on in the dominions of Morocco. So as he says, there are strictly speaking no Moroccan laws relating to citizenship of Moorish subjects in Morocco. The fundamental laws of this non-Christian country are based entirely upon the Islamic code, no part of which treats of the subject of citizenship. There are, however, numerous treaties and conventions between the various Christian countries and the Moorish Empire. We just went over one of them, the Act of Algeciras. Who are the signatories? Who are the signatories? Germany, Austria-Hungary, Belgium, Spain, United States of America, France, Great Britain, Italy, Portugal, Netherlands, Russia, Sweden. The Act of the Treaty of Madrid, right here. This is the Treaty of Madrid, which is the right of protections in Morocco. Who else is here? United States, Germany, Austria-Hungary, Belgium, Spain, France, United Kingdom, Italy, Netherlands, Portugal, Sweden, and Norway. Sweden and Norway, and obviously Morocco, the Empire of Morocco, as the sovereigns, just as he said. But did he say there are, however, numerous treaties? I just showed you two. There's more bilateral and unilateral treaties, unilateral treaties and bilateral treaties. There are, however, numerous treaties. And by the way, let's go back to this book. Britain and Morocco, bilateral treaty. France and Morocco, bilateral treaty. Spain and Morocco, bilateral treaty. Germany and Morocco, bilateral treaty. United States and Morocco, the Treaty of Peace and Friendship, 1786, 1836, bilateral treaty. Again, what did he say? There are numerous treaties and conventions between the various Christian countries and the Moorish Empire. This is two Americans talking to one another about you, black man. And this is in 1906. By means of which citizenship in this country is defined. But as I understand from the above acknowledged instructions that it is not the desire of the department to call for a report upon such lines, I will therefore confine these remarks to general conditions existing. He wants to confine his remarks. You don't want to be too obvious with what he's saying. Let me beat around the bush a little bit, see if I can throw off these Negroes. And it's worked, but only a little bit. And but for only so long, right? Well, it worked a lot of bit, but for only so long. All right. So he's confining his remarks to say what? Um, which may possibly be of some use in connection with the information desired. So Lee Root, the Secretary of State, sought information from the Charge d'Affaires, which was present at the American legation in Morocco, the diplomatic body. So it's overseas, although the United States, just because it's over here, doesn't mean it's not the empire. Don't get it twisted. But obviously, Elihu Root was here, and uh, Hoffman Phillip is stationed at the diplomatic body, which was at the capital, which at the time was in, I believe, Fez. I believe it was Fez, Morocco. Anyone correct me if I'm wrong. Okay. So he calls for a report. He calls upon Hoffman Phillip for a report about these Negroes. I need to know what's going on with them. What's going to happen? What can we do here? What can we do here? Right? So he's reporting back, but please make sure to confine your remarks. Let's be careful with what we say because we don't want to open up a can of worms here. There's a gag order on the world. The world has been sworn to secrecy. We don't want to disrupt it. So please, Hoffman Phillip, confine your remarks. Did y'all hear what I just said? Okay. So then he goes on to say, citizenship in Morocco may be said to be governed by the laws pertaining to the same in other countries, with the exception that all persons residing in Morocco who cannot prove foreign citizenship or protection are considered ipso jure as Moorish subjects. So you can't prove protections, you're a Moorish subject, meaning a naturalized Black American. 2 and 3. Now let's understand what happened. Remember, he's confining his remarks. So he's not saying too much, but he's saying enough. In hindsight, when you go back and read it with the proper understanding. Moorish subjects lost their nationality. So we lost our nationality. We were stripped of our nationality. We didn't lose our it was stripped. You see how he's confining his remark? You don't want to say they stripped it. No, we didn't lose it. You don't just lose your nationality. That's not money. It's not an object that you just lose. Where's my keys? I lost my keys. No, you don't lose your nationality. It was stripped. You see, this is word of art. Anyway, Moorish subjects lost their nationality only by becoming naturalized. So we were naturalized in or protected by another country having treaty relations with the Moorish Empire. Again, you already seen all those who have had treaty relations with the Moorish Empire. That includes the United States. So let's read it again. Moorish subjects lost their nationality and became Negroes, blacks, and colors. Let's complete the statement. See, he's confined in his remarks. Well, then let's expose his remarks. Moorish subjects lost their nationality and became black, Negroes, colors, African Americans, Indians, all that. Crips, Bloods, the whole thing, the whole nine, right? They became all those things. The Hebrew Israelites, Nawapians, gods and earths, Black Panthers, Garveyites, etc., etc. Muslims, Nation of Islam, Muslims, FOI, Fruit of Islam. We became all that. Baptists, Jehovah's Witness. We lost our nationality and became all those things, right? Uh, Only by becoming, and how did that happen? By becoming naturalized in or protected by another country, such as the United States, having treaty relations with the Moorish Empire. So we just showed you how there's all these treaty relations with the Moorish empires, with the Moorish Empire, with the Christian powers, the Christian countries. Reminder, reminder, don't get it twisted. The Holy Roman Empire was consisted of blacker people, blacker Moors, blacker people, Negroes, dark skin, coarse hair, big lips, big nose people. The Holy Roman Empire was ran by the Moors, and they are Christians. So I'll say it again. Don't get it twisted. We ain't talking about white people. We're not talking about white people. It's a family feud, if you will. Black on black crime on the highest level, if you want to see it that way. Crips and Bloods with a pen, with governments, not sets and blocks and streets, right? No, I'm talking about empires and kingdoms and the Game of Thrones. Black on black crime, the Game of Thrones. We've been battling with each other for a very long time. He goes on to say, it was established by the Convention of Madrid, concluded July 3rd, 1880, as follows. And he's quoting Article 15 of the Treaty of Madrid. Any subject of Morocco who has been naturalized in a foreign country and who shall return to Morocco shall after having remained for a length of time equal to that which shall have been regularly necessary for him to obtain such naturalization, choose between the entire submission to the laws of the empire. So this is saying naturalization several times, and the obligation to quit Morocco unless it shall be proved that his naturalization in a foreign country was obtained with the consent of the government of Morocco. You see, no consent. Now, there's two paragraphs. Pay attention. The second paragraph is the paragraph that black people as a whole come under. The first paragraph is where the Moroccan nationals who have repatriated come under. As such, the United States has no jurisdiction because we are being protected by and from, like he said here, a foreign government. Citizenship in Morocco may be said to be governed by the laws pertaining to the same in other countries, with the exception that all persons residing in Morocco who cannot prove foreign citizenship or protection are considered ipso Moorish subjects. So, by choosing the entire submission and repatriating back to your mother country, Mother Morocco, you come under her protections, and therefore they have no jurisdiction. Simple as that, right? But what's going on is the second paragraph, which says foreign naturalization heretofore acquired by subjects of Morocco, right? According to the rules established by the laws of each country, shall be continued to them as regards all its effects without any restrictions So the laws of the United States apply to you without any, with all of its effects without any restrictions, because you or we allowed the foreign naturalization to continue. Whereas we were supposed to repatriate and go back home to Mother Morocco. And it's not even leaving the land, it's just jurisdiction. An Indian, a Cherokee Indian in Oklahoma can drive from one county to the next and leave the American jurisdiction and go into Indian reservation jurisdiction. Same concept. Okay. The above ruling has never yet been acted upon. You see, Morris? Black man, blackamoor, wake up. You are the leader of the world. The above ruling has never yet been acted upon. And should this at any time be contemplated seriously, we're contemplating it seriously. We're not just contemplating on it, we're acting on it. A large number of naturalized people, black people, see, he's confining his remarks. You don't want to say black people. Naturalized people, Morris subjects are using keywords that it's not in the general vernacular of the American populace. You see, um, at any time, be contemplated seriously a large number of naturalized people, American and others. So you see, the naturalized people are the black people. The American are them. Residing in Morocco will be affected thereby. They will be affected. So let's prove this. Let's prove this. What do I have on my screen here? Let's go up. Read that for me, good brother.
The highlighted
Yes, sir.
July 14th, 1870, an act to amend the naturalization laws and to punish crimes against the same and for other purposes.
Thank you, good brother. For other purposes, uh-huh. Mm-hmm. Slick language. What's the other purposes? Please explain, United States. You already see that you was bold enough to say to punish. I highlighted it in green. An act to amend the naturalization laws and to punish crime against the same and for other purposes. What's the other purposes? We got to come up. We have to bring these Negroes under our sovereign authority and jurisdiction. But we'll skip past all these sections. We're going to read the whole law. Section 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Oh. So it's like, and by the way, let's not forget this part because this is the real purpose. Read that for me, good brother.
The highlighted
Yes, sir.
Section 7, and be it further enacted that the naturalization laws are hereby extended to aliens of African nativity and to persons of African descent.
Period. Does it line up now, black man? Because the word African, that's what you know that. The word more or Moorish, it's maybe, maybe not. I don't know. I didn't hear that. I didn't learn that in school. Right? So it's you've heard it before. You're not sure though. Because you didn't hear it from school. The white man ain't been telling you that. But African. Oh, you know that. Let me highlight that. Let me extra highlight that. Let me extra highlight that. African nativity, African descent. Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Which is then goes into the 14th Amendment, which it was for who? Who Trump said it was for? Who Trump remind the world it was for? I'm listening. That's a question for the floor. Who did Trump remind the world that the 14th Amendment was for?
So-called African Americans.
Be specific with the language. Descendants of what?
African slaves.
Exactly. So the word African, oh, that rings bells. So you see, naturalization. This is the naturalization laws of the United States, right? Naturalization, African and African. More. These are the Moors. That's you, black man. So let's go back. Now that I proved my point. Huh, you were naturalized. We were naturalized, right? In foreign jurisdiction. What does it say right here? Read this again. Uh, 2 and 3, right
Okay.
here.
more more subjects lost their nationality only by becoming naturalized in or protected by another country having treaty relations with the Moorish Empire. It
Mm-hmm.
was
Well, that's good. Period. That's how we lost the nationality. And then so the Sultan said, all right, so y'all want to naturalize my people? Okay, here's Article 15 for you, black man. Any subject of Morocco who has been naturalized in a foreign country and who shall return to Morocco shall, after having remained for a length of time equal to that which shall have been regularly necessary for him to obtain such naturalization that I didn't agree to, choose between entire submission to the laws of the empire and the obligation to quit Morocco, unless it shall be proved that his naturalization in a foreign country was obtained with the consent of the government of Morocco. However, black man, paragraph 2, foreign naturalization heretofore, meaning from here on out, acquired by subjects of Morocco, the black man. So you're the subject of Morocco or the Moorish subject, according to the rules established by the laws of each country, shall be continued to them as regards all its effects without any restriction. So, what are the laws of the particular country? Let's go back up to the top so you can see your fate from being a naturalized American. And punish. Because they're naturalized in their jurisdiction, so they get to punish you, black man. And so, therefore, George Bush Sr., as the CIA director, deploys chemical warfare on the black population in California under Operation Iran Contra, hires Freeway Ricky Ross to distribute it in the streets, get everybody hooked on crack. Chemical warfare. 10 years later, here comes your angel, because this is how y'all treat this man, the Democrat Negroes. Your angel, Biden, under the 92 crime bill, right? Lock all y'all up and still are. It's a perpetual law. It still stands. Hasn't been abolished. Obama didn't abolish it. Biden was in the presidency. He didn't abolish it. Oh, he changed the base name. Oh, thank you very much. Abolished the law. Trump ain't abolished the law. But that's a perpetual law. That's a political hanging. Punish. But you had to be first naturalized, right? You come under the jurisdiction and they can punish under the 92 crime bill that he passed, that y'all wanted to vote him in. The media is a very powerful tool of manipulation and mass brainwashing, because they sweep that under the rug. They don't talk about that. They focus on the Central Park Five. They focus on the Proud Boys. Care nothing about what he said. What has been done is the question. Action speaks louder than words, last I heard. So what was the actions of Biden? What were the Biden actions that y'all disregarded because oh he's better than Trump, but yet he's got a 92 crime bill that has politically lynched you since 92. And who was the prosecutor? Kamala Harris. I'll say it again. Hoodwinked, bamboozled, led astray. Voting is not even your concern. What I'm presenting today is your concern. You must repatriate to come out of their jurisdiction. Repatriate where? Back to your mother country, the Empire of Morocco, or come under this punish bill, Naturalization Act, naturalization laws, and to punish who? Because there is no other nationality on here except Section 7. As a reminder, and be it further enacted that the naturalization laws are hereby extended to aliens. See, we were aliens. Why were we aliens? I'm listening. Y'all been paying attention. Why was the so-called black man of African nativity and African descent? What made him an alien? No answer? What? Give it a shot. Take a guess. Take a stab at it. What made the black people aliens? Awkward silence. All right. Because they're subjects of Morocco. They're foreign to the American jurisdiction. So you can easily say is hereby extended to aliens of Mexican descent. Because Mexicans don't they consider them so-called illegal aliens? So why were you an alien? Because you were actually a subject of Morocco. You was a Moroccan. You came under the Moroccan jurisdiction. You were of Morocco, which means which is what made you a more Morocco, right here on this land. You were a Moor. And then you ended up naturalized as an American. And in this bill, they don't refer to you as Native Moroccan. Instead, it's African nativity or African descent. So that links you to these treaties in which you were naturalized. And what these folks, these American uh, dignitaries, so called, were discussing about you, Moorish subjects, black people, lost their nationality only by becoming naturalized. So, again, Naturalization Act of 1870, you were naturalized. Those who have African nativity and or African descent. Understood? I hope I drove that particular point home to link and connect the understanding as to who you are as it relates to the Empire of Morocco and the naturalization that occurred that pulled you out of Moroccan jurisdiction and made you an American to where now they can punish. Notice I keep emphasizing that. And to punish Islam. Okay, moving on. Any questions, comments, or concerns before I move on? Yes, no, yay, nay. Somebody, come on, give me some feedback. Any questions, comments, or concerns?
Yes, sir. I have a question.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. I'm listening.
Okay, and it's probably been said time and time again. I just want to be sure that I have it in the proper context.
Hmm.
So, how do we become unnaturalized from being a American citizen back to becoming a Moroccan
Mhm.
subject? Because if we're already classified because we have been naturalized in a foreign country, how do we reverse that?
Mm. Well, that's an excellent question, and it's worth being asked 1,000 times over and over and over. So don't even sweat it. It's been answered before, and it can be continued to be answered. I'll answer that question 1,000 times over and over because it's a very, very important question. And let's use let's answer that with an example of another nationality. I see that you have the L, which means you studied Moorish science with the Moorish Americans, the Moorish Science Temple of America in some degree.
No, sir, I have never been a member of the Moorish Science Temple of America. However, I have been studying the teachings of the Prophet Noble Drew
Okay.
Ali for many, many years.
Okay. That's really the foundation of my question. I should have asked it in that regard. Um, Thank you for your answer, and it's an excellent answer. Um, well, you'll know that uh, in his literature, uh, supposedly, he said that he mentioned something regarding if Italians and Koreans can have a nationality, so can we. So let's use an Italian. So the Moorish Americans use that as a reason for or an explanation for the term Moorish American because you have Italians that are Italian Americans, Koreans that are Korean Americans, so on and so forth. So an Italian American is someone who's been naturalized. So he's originally an Italian who chose American citizenship and he moved to the United States. In doing so, through the immigration process, he became an Italian American. He took on the last name. The last name is American, right? His first name is Italian because that's his bloodline. That's his nationality, his original nationality. So then the Moorish American, same concept. The Moorish American is a naturalized person whose original nationality is Moorish or Moroccan, but became an American. So therefore, Moorish American, just like Italian American or Korean American or any Mexican American, so on and so forth. So then, if that Italian American decides that he is tired of the U.S. policies and their politics and their tomfoolery, he can reverse that effect and go back to Italy by way of application. So you have to renounce his his American citizenship and repatriate back to Italy by application and subsequent consent of the government. So the government got to accept it. They don't have to. Just to be clear, the government can say, "Nah, you stay over there. You're an American now," if they choose to. Um, so that's the process of repatriating or reversing the naturalization effect. In our case, we didn't have the government in place to administer said process. So therefore, we were lost at sea. You've heard that before because we didn't have a means or a way to come back to our country. Um, it went into a shallow grave in 1956 when it became the Kingdom of Morocco. The government did. The people is the state. So the state has always been here just in a shallow grave because of a lack of knowledge of self, if you will. The government now has been reinstated as of June 8, 2024, when I took the oath. As such, we have also established an administrative procedure that would allow people such as yourself to reverse the effect by renouncing the American citizenship and repatriating back to Morocco by application through what's called the Trusteeship Council or the Trusteeship System of the WRC, which is the Wazir Regional Council. It's an attachment and an institution of the empire that assists with the Moors who seek repatriation to regain their national identity. And that would be the answer to your question. So it's in place. And if you care to do exactly that, then I would have you speak with the prime minister I'm not sure how you got this link, probably through the Prime Minister, Akil Zibe, and he will assist you through that process. Did I answer your question?
Yes, sir. I received the link because I put out a request. I believe it was on TikTok because it appeared to be I don't want to say advertise. I would like to say an invitation to come and
Mhm.
join the Zoom meeting.
Mhm.
However, I have emailed the Wazir, I want to say National Council. I have to check my email. And then I
Why is there
received a
counsel?
link. Yes, yes.
Mhm.
And then I got an email back with the link. But other than that, I haven't. And I requested that I receive another email so that I can start the process. Because the way that I look at it is, even though you have nationals who may be Italian, they may be Chinese, they may be Indian or whatever they call themselves, when they call us the by a continent as opposed to a country, as in African American, the that includes the whole continent of all of the diaspora of the African countries, but it doesn't
Mhm.
say which one.
Correct.
Like it doesn't say Ghana or Sudan or
Correct.
Burkina Faso or any of those things. So
Correct.
it's stateless as far as the African American is
Correct.
concerned.
Correct. Well, the
So
state
I'll
that's
be looking forward to
regardless.
somebody getting back with me. That would be
Well,
great.
now that you're on the call, trust me, the Prime Minister Prime, could you please get with her and assist her from there forward? Do you hear me, Prime? He's probably tied up. But could you get her information? You guys can communicate through the chat as I continue the class, and before we even close out, I'll be sure that you were taken care of, even if it's through the chat for now. Fair enough.
Absolutely. Yes, sir. Thank you very much.
You're
Point
welcome.
of interest, what I'll do is I'll put my number in the chat, and
Okay.
you get my number through the chat, and I can assist her by getting her with to the prime.
Okay. Sounds good. And we had a small disruption in that process, and that's been settled. And so he's getting acclimated to the process to assist further with that. His name is Marcus Maymoon El Marzouk, the Secretary of State and the Executive Director of the Wazir Regional Council. I'm proud and happy and glad to announce his arrival or return. Let's put it that way, because he's always been with us. And even when he left, he was still with us in spirit. What spirit? Unity, loyalty, conformity, and obedience. So that aspect will be rectified from the uh, disruption that it has withstood in the past couple of months. So yes, thank you for that, Prime. Or should I say, Vice Minister? Okay. And I'm glad I answered your question, sister. So now we're looking at Resolution 1514, and not the whole thing. I'm just touching on documents to get through the class, just to show the blackamoors how they're being spoken of. In many cases, in code, uh, which means you need to pay attention to understand who you really are, because there's a gag order on the world to keep the black man down. Because if he rise up as a Moor, which would have been his ancient dynasties, uh, be a problem for the world. A lot of people will lose a lot of power because a lot of people on planet Earth, a lot of nations on planet Earth are exercising our power in our absence. Okay. All right. So this is the preamble to Resolution 1514, Declaration on the Granting of Independence to Colonial Countries and Peoples. Okay. This is the preamble. But let's skip down to the one that matters most to you. But read that for me, Vice Minister. where it says believing.
Believing that the process of liberation is irresistible and irreversible, and that in order to avoid serious crisis, an end must be put to colonialism and all practice of segregation and discrimination associated therewith.
Thank you, good brother. So in the 60s, this is the 1960s. This resolution was adopted in 1960. Wasn't the black man marching and praying with Martin Luther King seeking what? What was they seeking? Some form of liberation from what? Segregation and discrimination, right or wrong? Weren't they marching against segregation and discrimination?
Correct.
Yes or no?
Correct.
Mm-hmm. That's exactly what we've been doing. Because the liberation is irresistible and irreversible. But we didn't have the proper argument, and certainly not the proper action. You don't march and pray. You pull out your pen and start writing laws. Establish your own nation, not beg them for a place at their table, right? See, that's what Martin Luther King had us doing, begging them for a place on their table. Can we get a chair over here somewhere? No, no, you get to sit in the kiddie section, the little table, with all the rest of the minorities, the children, the minors. This here table for the adults, the majority. In other words, if you want to be part of the majority, if you want to be a part of the adults, then build your own table. You see, you got to build our own table. It's not a matter of begging them for a place in theirs. And every time the black man votes, that's exactly what he's doing, begging for a place at his table, at their table, instead of focusing on building your own table. So the General Assembly believes that the process of liberation is irresistible and irreversible, and that in order to avoid serious crisis, an end must be put to colonialism and all practices of segregation and discrimination associated therewith. I invoked Resolution 1514 in our letter to the Trump administration. This is Resolution 1541. This is for you, Sister Valerie. What are the principles? Well, before we go there, let's go up. So this is dealing with Article 73 of the Charter of the United Nations, non-self-governing territory. And it's broken down into several principles. Principle 2 says that chapter 11 of the Charter embodies the concept of non-self-governing territories in a dynamic state of evolution and progress towards a full measure of self-government. Is that what we're seeking, Morris? Are we seeking a full measure of self-government, or are we seeking anything else lesser than that? I'm listening. I'm listening. Somebody give me an answer to that. What are we seeking? Are we seeking a full measure of self-government or no?
Self-government.
Yes.
A
Full
full
measure
measure
of
of
self-government.
self-government,
Yes.
self-determination, Islam. Okay. So then we go down. We'll examine Resolution 1541 on another date. So let's go to Principle 6. It's a non-self-governing territory can be said to have reached a full measure of self-government because that's what we're seeking, right? Well, there's three uh, choices. The value. Could you please read those three choices for me, please? Start with the one in red, which is C. Do you hear me, Sister Valerie? I don't know if you're speaking and you're on mute.
Oh, I was on mute. Integration When an independent state.
Okay. Why is it in red, Sister Valerie?
Because we are seeking independence.
Okay. So you see, what do you see there? You see the stop the traffic lights color schemes, don't you?
I do.
So red means stop, not our option. We're not doing that because we've already done it once before. We integrated with them, didn't we? In the
Yes.
60s, right? Okay, so
Yeah.
when we was marching and praying, Martin Luther King integrated and then turned around and said, "Oh, I have integrated my people into a burning house." But he also told us that the Negro is languished in the corners of American society where he finds himself exiled on his own homeland in the I Have a Dream speech. So he already knows that we're on our own homeland. So why even seek integration? You got to question things. It's called discernment and critical thinking. Automatically, if you know that we're languished on our own homeland, then you should be going for the green, the gold. Anyway, continue, sister. What letter B says?
Free association with an independent state. Or
What is an example of that? Right? The Indian country, they're in a status of free association with the United States. Oftentimes, the Moorish Americans they would like to believe and say that the MST of A, the Moorish Science Temple of America, is a government. Okay, that's based on free association too. You don't, if that's even the case, which is not. It's an organization. It's a religious organization. I mean, I don't understand how they can. That's just interesting to say that. So, what is the name of your country? Moorish Science Temple of America. Really? That's the name of the country? The Temple of America. Of America. Of America means that you come under the jurisdiction of America. So, even if you were considered to be a country, that would be free association because you're of America. When the idea is A, what's A, sister? What does it say?
emergence as a sovereign independent state.
Period. Sovereign and independent to have your self determination and freely expose of your own resources, etc. This is Resolution 1541. So there's documents on an international level that supports our claim and our efforts, our desires of independence. The problem is uh, that there's a gag order on the world, as I've said before. So everyone is shh, right, quiet as crickets, hoping that we just go away. Ain't going nowhere. So that means that under unity, loyalty, conformity, and obedience, it's left up to us and our own self determination to keep pushing the narrative, raise the question of Morocco to the international community, right? Put pressure on the United States and others, um, the international community as a whole, to recognize the sovereign independence of the Moors. Once again, they don't have a choice. It was written: the meek shall inherit the earth. All right. So what else? We got back over here the Declaration regarding non-self-governing territories. This is what it's all about. So it talks about, let's go back. So Resolution 1541, principles which should guide members in determining whether or not, no, hold up. Who decides? Because this says principles which should guide members in determining whether or not an obligation exists to transmit the information called for under Article 73E of the Charter. It's talking about Article 73E of the Charter. And then who decides? Okay, the nations of the world. But were the Moors in the building, the subjugated Moors, to give their perspective on what should be considered? Because you're writing things, your writing is you're writing around the bush. You're writing around the Moors. allowing for others to achieve independence, but keeping the Moors in a shallow grave. Because oftentimes what's being written by these entities may not apply directly to the so-called black man in America. Did you hear what I said? Therefore, upon coming to knowledge of self, you must recognize yourself as a non-self-governing territory subject to decolonization. And I did just that for the Moorish diaspora in my letter to Trump. Let's look at it one more time. Right here. Somebody read this for me, please. This highlighted section. Somebody read that for me, please. Perhaps you, Sister Valerie.
As a result, I note for the record that I, Sultan Abdul Al Kabir, under the sovereign will of the Moors and the Constitution of the Empire of Morocco, do hereby recognize this territory in which the United States resides as a non-self-governing territory subject to decolonization.
Thank you, and period. We're not going to sit here and depend on the Special Committee on Decolonization C-24 to recognize this territory as a non-self-governing territory. We'll be waiting forever. Keep in mind, we've already corresponded with them. Once again, quiet. Not even to say, well, we reject your claim. I mean, none of that. Just quiet. Okay, no worries. We'll recognize ourselves and keep pushing the narrative. Simple as that. So that's what Article 73 is about, right? And so what is it they're talking about? What does Article 73 say? 73C. To further, I'm sorry. To transmit regularly to the Secretary General for information purposes, subject to such limitations as security and constitutional considerations, may require statistical and other information of a technical nature relating to economic, social, and educational conditions. They're not reporting economic, social, and educational conditions. The educational system is designed to bamboozle us, hoodwink us. It's called the Historical Black College and Universities. There's no history to black. Black history is slavery. No. Try it again. How about the Historical Moorish College and Universities? Now you're going into Spain, etc. It's a vast history. And scientific purposes set forth in this article. I'm sorry, conditions in their territories for which they are respectively responsible, other than those territories to which Chapter 12 and 13 apply. But let's see what it says at the beginning. Article 73, members of the United Nations, which have or assume responsibilities for the administration of territories whose peoples have not yet attained a full measure of self-government. That's the Moors. For the United States, right, assume responsibility for the administration of these territories because we have not achieved or attained a full measure of self-government. What did I highlight? What language did I highlight in Resolution 1541? Full measure of self-government. All right. Recognize the principles that the interests of the inhabitants of these territories are paramount. So the interest of you, black man, is paramount. You have to raise your hand. You have to ring the bell. You have to ring the alarm in order to make a difference. And we have the power to do it. That's the part that's so heartbreaking. All we need is unity. We got all that we need. We're responsible for $2.5 trillion as consumers. That's more than most nations. That puts us like in the top 10. Imagine we consolidate that wealth. It's curtains for the United States. The United States would have to take a dirt nap. And that's why such calculated and systematic efforts to keeping the oppression and the suppression going, i.e., the manifestations of colonialism. All right. Except as a sacred trust. So this is a sacred trust that the United States has. Let's read it again. Members of the United Nations, which have or assume responsibilities for the administration of territories whose peoples have not yet attained a full measure of self-government, recognize the principle that the interests of the inhabitants of these territories are paramount and accept as a sacred trust the obligation to promote to the utmost within the system of international peace and security established by the present charter the well-being of the inhabitants of these territories. No, not for us. Why though? Because we're not pushing the issue. We don't even know about this. We're too busy being entertained by the famous court jesters that are getting paid quite handsomely, and you're paying them, buying their CDs, buying their streams and whatever, going to the concerts. And when have they even reciprocated that finance back to the people? When is Mr. Jay-Z, Sean Carter, when is he gonna buy the so-called Marcy projects, rehab it to assist the black man in that area or within that project that he so famously likes to promote and big up and rap? Yeah, okay, it's good to talk about it. Let's do something about it. When are you gonna buy the projects? When are you going to assist your own brothers and sisters? When is it that they're all gonna come together, pool all their finances together, all the court jesters? You've done well for yourselves by being court jesters, circus clowns. You've been entertaining well. You made a lot of money on it. What's next? Lear jets, Louis Vuitton stuff, expensive cars, Rick Ross with his car shows. What happened to, let's say, pooling the finances together to feed the poor or anything? I mean, do something. And we don't hold them accountable. It's all good. The fans don't hold them accountable. The fans support the nonsensical foolishness, the tomfoolery. This is the message to the black nation. Get it together. It's time to wake up. It's time to hold your so-called leaders and entertainers, your circus clowns, with all their Grammy trinkets, Billboard Award trinkets, Hollywood star trinkets, while all the while the people are suffering on the streets. This is ridiculous. And that's the reason why the world does not respect the black man. Hell, that's the reason why the sisters don't respect the black man. Because the black man is not doing absolutely nothing to lead the nation, and therefore the sisters and the children. It's shameful. And somebody ought to tell it just as it is. Continuing on. Section A, to ensure with due respect for the culture of the peoples concerned, their political, economic, social, and educational advancement, their just treatment, and their protection against abuses. Who's enforcing that? Is Jay-Z enforcing it? Is Oprah enforcing it? Is Denzel Washington enforcing it? B, to develop self-government, to take due account of the political aspirations of the people and to assist them in the progressive development of their free political institutions according to the particular circumstances of each territory and its peoples and their varying stages of advancement. Who's enforcing it? Is Outkast enforcing it? Is Rick Ross enforcing it? C, to further international peace and security. D, to promote constructive measures of development, to encourage research, and to cooperate with one another. See, the United States has to cooperate with us when and where appropriate with specialized international bodies with a view to the practical achievement of the social, economic, and scientific purposes set forth in this article. And then obviously we read E, to transmit regularly to the Secretary General for information purposes. Who's enforcing this on behalf of the people? Is Obama enforcing it? No. Is Michelle Obama? No. Is Colin Powell enforcing it? No. Is Maxine Waters enforcing? No. Is Farrakhan enforcing it? No. I can go on and on. Everyone has sold out. Almost everyone. There's a good brother named John Hope. What's his last name? John Hope Bryant, who's he's one of our billionaires, and he's got an initiative called the Hope Foundation, seeking to establish 1 million Black businesses in America. And the idea is to establish group economics. That's what I'm talking about. That's respect. That's doing something, right? You make your millions, you make your billions, you come back and you do something. You don't just disregard everyone. This is ridiculous. That's what happens with integration. They got happy. Oh, I get to sit at the table. Right? It's shameful. And someone has to say it. Reparations. So this is what we keep screaming about. Everybody wants $1 million check for each Black person. If there's 50 billion people in America, 50 million people in America, $1 million for each person is what? Like 5 billion? 50 billion? I don't know. Probably 5 billion. If there's 50 million Black people in America and each one of them get $1 million, that would cost the government about, I would say 50 billion. I'm not doing it. If someone can do the math behind the scenes and tell me somewhere in that range, 5 or 50 billion, I don't know. Point being is that they could afford it. They could afford it. Will they do it? No. It's not happening, Captain. You've already received your reparations. What are the forms? Article 34. This is the responsibility of states for internationally wrongful acts of 2001. Okay? Forms of reparations. Full reparations for the injury caused by the internationally wrongful act shall take the form of restitution, compensation, and satisfaction, either singly or in combination, in accordance with the provisions of this charter. So what were Black people marching for in the 1960s under Martin Luther King?
Civil rights.
Civil rights and integration. It was granted to the Black man, wasn't it? Yes or no?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's reparations. So you already got your reparations. Sorry to tell you. Because Martin Luther King came with the wrong argument. Civil rights and integration. So the reparations was based on that. Civil rights and integration. So you got what you asked for. And then I integrated my people into a burning house. And then he goes back and tries to pitch for financial reparation. Too late, sir. You already got what you asked for. Go sit down somewhere. Matter of fact, let's get rid of him. And they got rid of him. What we're seeking for is what else can be considered reparations? It says restitution. Restitution of what? Restoration?
Repair, restoration.
Repairing? Repairing what?
Returning the country back to uh how it's supposed to be the Moroccan governed.
That's correct. Repair the empire, assist the Moors as they go through their varying stages of advancement of the decolonization reforms to repair the ancient empire. Mother Morocco, our ancient country. That's reparations. One form of it to repair. And then also it includes to repair what? Your national identity as a Moor, Moroccan. And in doing so, once that's been repaired, what happens? Let's talk about what happens. Back to the act of Algeciras. What was chapter 4?
Uh Banking?
No,
No.
no, I don't think so. That's chapter 3, I believe. Chapter 4, let's see, touch on that real quick. Please be patient with me as I scroll through. Okay, so this is chapter a declaration concerning a better return of taxes and the creation of new revenue. That's chapter 4, right? Let's see. Um, let's see. Where can we find? In accordance with the right granted by Article 11. Okay, no, that's not it. This is where they get the right to hold property. Um, with a view to creating new resources for the Moxton, which is the government. The conference recognizes in principle that a tax may be established on city buildings. Did y'all hear what I said? I gotta laugh. Black man, this is your power and authority that they don't want you to exercise. What is the Moxon? The Moorish government. With a view to creating new resources for the Moxon. The conference recognizes, now we just seen where Roosevelt said that they must adhere to every article and clause. Did he not say that? Yes or no?
Yes, he did.
Yes, he did.
Okay, so then you must adhere to Article 61, sir. With a view to creating new resources for the Moxon, the conference recognizes in principle that a tax may be established on city buildings. Period. If you go back, the one that I skipped over, this is what he was talking about as to why they acquiesced and signed, ratified this treaty for their life, liberty, and their pursuit of happiness and expanding their commerce and all this and that. Article 60. In accordance with the right granted by Article 11 of the Madrid Convention, foreigners, the United States, shall have the right to acquire property throughout the Sharifian Empire. You see? And His Majesty the Sultan shall issue to his administrative and judicial officers such instructions as may be necessary for them not to refuse the registration of deeds without lawful cause. Did y'all hear what I just read? In accordance with the right granted by Article 11 of the Madrid Convention, foreigners, Americans, have the right to acquire property throughout the Sharifan Empire, and His Majesty the Sultan shall issue to his administrative and judicial officers, right, the competent authority, such instructions as may be necessary for them not to refuse the registration of deeds without lawful cause. Period. I mean, what do you want me to say, black man? This is you. Okay. So then, what else does it say here? A part of the receipts thus realized shall be set aside for the requirements of municipal streets, and hygiene, and generally for the expense of improvements and conservation of the cities. The tax is due from the Moorish or foreign owner without distinction, but the tenant or the holder of the key shall be responsible to the Moorish treasury. Huh? I didn't write this. I didn't write this. They wrote this. I mean, there's so much in here. They're supposed to pay taxes to the. I mean, every time that there's uh, a real estate closing, they got to pay 2 or 3% or something. It's in here. His Sharifian Majesty having decided in 1901 that the Moorish officials, black officials, Moorish officials, the blackamoors who collect the agricultural taxes, we collect the taxes, should no longer receive either the Sokra or the Muma. The conference is of the opinion that this rule should be made general so as far as impossible. Oh, I'm sorry. So as far as possible, right? This is what they're saying. This is what our authority and powers are, black man. I'm looking for the area in which it talks about right here, Article 65. The conference adheres to the proposition proposed by the Moorish delegation. Okay, so let's say this. You might be confused a little bit about the Moorish thing. Well, it certainly don't mean white. Let's start there. There ain't nothing European or white or Caucasian or nothing about the Moorish anything. Now you have to start to understand how it relates to you. And I just showed you based on the how it connects, how the Naturalization Act, them talking about African nativity and descent, connects back to what? The naturalization discussed between Hoffman Phillip and Elihu Root, the Secretary of State, dealing with how the Moors lost their nationality by becoming naturalized. Well, who are those people that got naturalized? Those are those of African nativity and descent, i.e., black people. Keep it simple. So what does it say? The conference adheres to the proposition proposed by the Moorish delegation to create, with the assistance of the diplomatic body, a stamp tax on contract and notarial acts brought before a duels. Okay, B, a maximum transfer tax of 2% on sales of real estate. Read it again. A maximum transfer tax of 2% on sales of real estate. So did I write this? No. A statistical and weigh-in tax of a maximum of 1% ad valorem on merchandise transported by coasting vessels. D, a passport fee to be collected from Moorish subjects. The Moorish subjects they're being collected a passport fee. Black people. E, eventually warfare and lighthouse dues, the proceeds of which shall be devoted to harbor improvements. 66. Merchandise of foreign origin shall temporarily be subject to entry into Morocco to special taxes amounting to 2.5% ad valorem. I mean, they have literal numbers here. 2.5%, 2% for the real estate transfer taxes. I mean, we gotta study. We gotta read, and we gotta understand, overstand, and understand who we are and what our obligations and responsibilities are on this land. We weren't transported. The European didn't show up here, and it was, as they told us, vast lands of nothing. Nothing was here. They had to build everything. Just teepee tents. So they came here, saw that there was nothing, and decided, oh, we got to build this thing up. What are we gonna do? Oh, let's go to Africa and kidnap everybody. And let's populate this land with black people and have them force them into labor and have them build everything. Even if that was the case, the narrative does not show the resistance. Where was the African resistance? So they just said it, they just went along with it. Even on the ships, they didn't even resist. They just jumped overboard. They didn't attempt to throw the captains and whoever navigating the ships over the board. They jumped themselves over the really. So we that docile and we that cowardly. At least the Indians had a fight. The Cowboys versus Indians. At least they had their little bow and arrows and stuff. Right? Their little war cry, fighting the Cowboys. At least they got a story of so-called resistance. The Africans don't. They just went along with the program. Came over here to build everything, but yet you had these world fairs in the 1800s where these majestic buildings were already here. But the history is telling me and telling us all that you came over here and it was vast lands of nothing, just grass and trees and teepee tents. Come on,
Point of interest.
go ahead, bro.
Yeah, and when they were coming westward, they really wasn't fighting Indians. Those Indians were really Moors. They just used the term Indians to throw Sidi Muhammad off.
Right, right. But they were teepee tents, and those weren't built by Indians. Those were built by Native Americans
Mhm. Yep.
from Siberia or whatever.
Hmm.
There's a distinction. There's a distinction. What are we? Native what?
Moor.
Native Moroccans, to be more exact.
Right.
The Native Moroccans had buildings, arches and domes and pillars. The Native Americans had teepee tents. Make a
Exactly.
distinction. We didn't have no damn teepee tents.
Exactly.
We had majestic buildings, ancient majestic buildings. The same buildings, the same Kremlin you find in Russia is the same stuff you'll find over here and everywhere else in between. It's called Moorish architecture or Moroccan architecture. Now they're saying it's Tartarian architecture. Whatever, it's all the same. Any questions, comments, or concern? I yield the floor for further discussions if there's any questions or comments. Okay, we'll get the close out in a few. So what do? We enacted a constitution. Despite his treasonous collusion and seditious conspiracy, credit is still due. It was politically prepared by J. Bay, right? Politically prepared, not authored. Politically prepared. It's a difference. Drafted February 1st, 2024. Signed by the Seyras on February 29th, 2024. Signed by the Wazirs on February 29th, 2024. Election day for the Sultan, May 12th, 2024. Declaration of Independence by the Sultan, yours truly, May 13th, 2024. Constitution signed by the Sultan, yours truly, on June 3rd, 2024. Public inauguration of the Sultan, yours truly, on June 8th, 2024. None of this has Kendon's name on it. None of this has manslaughter Kendon Bay's name on it. He is a fraud, an absolute fraud based on a failed coup attempt and a subsequent special elections. They tried to overthrow me. Me and the rest of the government, those who are loyal to the Constitution, were not having it. Period. Declaration of Independence by Sultan Al Kabir, May 13, 2024. Constitution signed by Sultan Al Kabir, June 3rd, 2024. Public inauguration of Sultan Al Kabir, June 8th, 2024. Promulgated to the empire by Sultan Al Kabir, June 13th, June 8th, 2024. And then deposited at the United Nations on June 13th, 2024. And then number 10, notification to the United States of America, France, United Kingdom, Germany, Spain, Portugal, Denmark, Netherlands, Sweden, Austria, Hungary, Italy, Belgium, Russia, His Catholic Majesty of the Holy See, the Kingdom of Morocco, and Canada on June 13th, 2024. So what we have done has come together with the power of the pen to reinstate the government for the Empire of Morocco, which now allows the administration to take place to now assist those who want to repatriate to come back home to Mother Morocco as we go through the varying stages of advancement of the decolonization reforms to fully achieve a full measure of self-government pursuant to the Charter. Specifically, Chapter 11, non-self-governing territories, whereas us, as the sovereign Moors of the land, recognize ourselves in this territory as a non-self-governing territory subject to decolonization without any questions. It is absolutely so. And we will continue to push the narrative. We will continue to push the ball. We will continue to raise the question of Morocco on an international level to bring awareness to our cause and therefore put pressure on the United States and the signatory powers to come to the
Point of
table,
interest.
let me finish, to come to the table and deal with what's at hand, which is decolonization and the sovereignty and independence of the Moors, who have been misclassified, bamboozled, led astray to believe that there's some black whatever, which is not the case. They are Moors, and they are of the Moorish Empire. Go ahead, AG, I yield.
Thank you for this, Sultan. As the vice prime can, Allah makes no mistakes. As I'm not a very, uh, I would say, high spiritual person, just based upon my position, I try to make sure I try to stay away from the religion, even though I'm gracious for what Allah's done. I just making sure that my mind does not get swayed with any of the religion aspect of what we do, because the law is what keeps the Moors and keeps all human beings in check. So when you come over here to the Empire of Morocco, you got to understand that there's two narratives. There's international law and there's Moroccan law. But as the vice prime can tell you from the last Sunday, from the last class this past Sunday, the vice prime, isn't it ironic on what the Sultan is speaking on today? Didn't we just go through this? Isn't this kind of like a mirror of what we went through in our AG class?
Yes, it is.
And then the Sultan doesn't talk. We didn't talk about the class, but it's ironic that he's going back to the Constitution again. Back to the Constitution. They your Constitution, because your Constitution has been, because the original Constitution has been tampered with based upon Article 10, based upon seditious activity. But I just wanted to point out, as the Sultan is running a very clear and precise class, this is exactly what I went through on the Attorney General's. It's going back to the Constitution. And I asked the same questions, Sultan, de jure Sultan. I went through that whole table of contents at the beginning and said, who was here at this time? Who was here at this time? Who was the Sultan at this time? Who was the Sultan at this time? See, Allah makes no mistakes. She does not. Moors, whenever I'll finalize it with this as y'all chief legal officer. Whenever there is a problem in the empire or with any internal state, your solution, please finish this for me, and not the Sultan and not anyone else. Your solution is where at? Take yourselves off of mute. Where's your solution for any problem you got?
Can I answer it?
No. Where is your solution for any problem you got within the Empire of Morocco, whether it's internal or external? Where's your solution? Where are you going to find your solution at?
Constitution.
Say that again, please, very loud.
The Constitution.
The Constitution. I
That's
yield. Islam.
Valerie, my sister. Islam, the Constitution. See, he tried to fork tongue the Constitution. He tried to say that, let's go to Article 10. Let's go to Article 10 and let's highlight the word because the beginning was the word, and the word is with God, and the word is preside, and preside means preside. Period. You don't get to give your own interpretation on what a word means. That's black magic. That's devilish. That's egregious to misrepresent a word and get everyone to go along with it and put in the court documents that, well, the Moors agreed to my interpretation of the word. No, the world doesn't have to go along with such tomfoolery. And those Moors have the right to course correct and say, well, no, because that's not what it means. But they're incompetent weaklings. I'm not going to say that. They're going to accept it. And that's exactly what they did. And it backfired because I'm not having it. So to conclude, talk briefly about the diplomatic offensive. This is a brand new proclamation I just drafted today. Appointment and the diplomatic offensive. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but it's addressed to all Moroccan nationals, the diaspora, and the international community. And so we have appointed our Secretary of State, Marcus Maymoun El Marzouk. Okay. Excellent brother with lots of skill sets. I'm not sure if he's still on, but we also appointed the Minister of Foreign Affairs, which that was done about 6 months ago, His Excellency Tyree Bey. We also appointed Brother Marcus as the executive director based on an executive order pursuant to Article 98, which established the convention and also the founding document of the convention, January 30th, 2023. This is the institution of the government that assists the Moors in repatriating back to Mother Morocco. And then, excuse me, finally, the Minister of Decolonization Committee, Brother Maru El Polaris, Minister of Decolonization Committee and the Communications Representative on behalf of His Majesty the Sultan. He has put together what he calls a media kit, and the media kit is a strategic instrument of Moorish diplomatic offensive containing official proclamation and decrees establishing the legitimacy of the restored empire. Well, this is the wrong version. I updated it. Let me show you the updated version right here. I had to update it to be more accurate and specific to the media kit. I had some misunderstandings. Keeping in mind he created it. So what was contained within this kit? The foundational instruments, the Empire Constitution and Declaration of Independence. 2, the Sultan's Declaration of Independence and inauguration video demonstrating the reinstatement of the government. 3, summaries of treaty relations demonstrating the empire's sovereign authority under international law. 4, portrait of the Sultan of Morocco to clear up confusion with the fraudulent claimant. We must, at all times, make good efforts to draw the line, clear up the confusion as to who's the Sultan, that being Abdul Smith Al-Kabir. Camden Bay is a fraudulent claimant. I can't say it enough. Moors, you have been informed and you have been warned. Camden Bay is an absolute fraud, a fraudulent claimant. They sought to undermine the authority of the Moorish Empire and the constitutional order of the empire and install a fraudulent puppet with a 20-year criminal record to include manslaughter. Even if I wasn't the Sultan, I wouldn't want no one like that as my Sultan. You participated in the genocide of your own people for over 20 years. You have no business holding that office, and you certainly don't have no business holding the office based on fraud, corruption, malfeasance, conspiracy, treason, and sedition. So, I'll say it again. Number 4, portrait of the Sultan of Morocco to clear up confusion with the fraudulent claimant. 5, empire flag and seal demonstrating the empire's national symbols. And 6, the WRC Convention 2023 foundational document for the International Organization of the Empire. The offensive, so these 3 offices, the Secretary of State, Minister of Foreign Affairs, the Secretary of State deals with the internal government operations, which coordinates the MOTSIN, implements policy, manages domestic communications. The Minister of Foreign Affairs deals with the external diplomatic relations of the empire. It manages foreign relations, engages with international organizations, and secures recognition. And then the Minister of Decolonization Committee, his focus is the communications and media strategy. And his role as the architect of the media kit, engages the press, raises the question of Morocco internationally. So the coordination of these offices ensures seamless alignment that the empire's internal governance, external diplomatic efforts, and media strategy are fully aligned and mutually reinforcing. 2, the strategic execution that the diplomatic offensive is supported by a stable government and government apparatus and a robust media campaign. 3, message consistency that the empire speaks with one voice to the world, to its own people, and to the international press. 4, decolonization advancement that the internal organization of the Moorish government proceeds in lockstep with international recognition efforts and media pressure. So, what is a diplomatic offensive? These appointments are in direct alignment with the Moorish diplomatic offensive, a comprehensive strategy to raise the question of Morocco before the international community, to ensure or to secure recognition for the restored empire, and to complete the decolonization of the Far West. Diplomatic offensive includes communications with the United Nations and the C-24 Special Committee on Decolonization, engagement with the signatory powers of the General Act of Algeciras of 1906, outreach to the BRICS nation and the non-aligned states and other multipolar powers. Excuse me. And then next, direct communication with the President of the United States, as you've seen earlier. Media engagement through the media kit to raise awareness of the Moorish question. Coordination with the non-self-governing territories recognized by the C-24. Salam. So this is part of the diplomatic offensive in which we're employing the political reforms as well as the social reforms as a 1-2 punch to achieve the goal of decolonization. Keeping in mind that this process, this offensive, deals with the executive branch, not the judicial branch. They're not politicians. The judicial branch has no business in this. And there is no ICJ. The ICJ is not part of the process of decolonization. Not at all. Other than an advisory opinion upon being summoned by one of the organs of the United Nations, not the state that's decolonizing. So it would have to be the who? The Security Council, the C-24, the Secretary General of the United Nations, but not the Empire of Morocco. So when you see this latest clash with the United States versus Empire versus the United States, nonsensical, tomfoolery, ill-founded. It is a stall and deny tactic. It puts me in the mindset of a controlled opposition operation. It's a Fed operation. It's got to question this. Furthermore, even if you could petition the ICJ, it requires a substantial amount of money that they can't afford. But that's irrelevant. There is no ICJ other than an advisory opinion. This is the procedures. It's political and social reforms. Islam, this is what they predicted. AMPAC 2.0 predicted that the empire will implode in 6 months. The reality check, 9 months later, the empire is stronger than ever. Yes, indeed. AMPAC 2.0 prediction, the Sultan will be removed. Reality check, the Sultan remains firmly in the chair. Abdul al-Kabir. The prediction, the government will collapse. Reality check, the government is stable, cleansed, and growing. Prediction, the Moors will abandon the empire. Reality check, more Moors are joining and reclaiming their nationality. Their predictions were ill-founded. Their schemes have failed. Their time is over. Whilst the clock is ticking, and it's ticking, and it's ticking, and it's ticking away. They are fading away. They have no standing. They're impersonating officers of the empire. J. Jermaine Bey and his band of rogue Moors will be held accountable in the court of law, the Supreme Court of the empire, when the time comes. In the meantime, in between time, the only thing else left for me is constant and full exposure of their criminality. And it shall remain that way until they surrender and stand down. Islam. So this is a sneak peek into the diplomatic offensive, meaning that we're not passive, we're active. And we're diligently working towards the completion of decolonization by means of the political reforms and the social reforms to achieve the goal, to achieve the mission of sovereignty and independence, integrity of domains, and economic liberty without any inequality for all. That includes you, black man. So I'll call upon you to reach out to the empire, or at the very least, study the reference points that were presented this evening. Study, make yourself approved, understand who you are and what your obligations and responsibilities are as the sovereign of the land. You must rise up from your victim mindset of slavery. That's a misplaced, that's a misinformed story. You're a prisoner of war who may have came into slavery because of the capture of our government, the conquest. But you're not a slave. You're way more than that. You come from an advanced race of people who built majestic buildings, provided free energy for all. And the list goes on and on and on. Even the book, 101 Inventions from the Negro, that shows you the story. We invented everything. It's a hot summer, isn't it? Guess who invented the AC? The black man. Open heart surgery, the whole nine. Everyone basically knows this. Red light, green light, the traffic stop, the traffic signals or whatever, the traffic lights. Black man. Internet, cell phones, GPS, AI, black men and women, Moorish peoples. It's in our DNA. It's time to unlock the potential and the power contained in our DNA and ascend back to being Moors again. And in doing so, you will bring back God to the equation. As long as we're in lower self, the devil runs rampant. Rising up, coming back into our higher self, brings back God or Allah or whatever you subscribe to, keeping in mind that that is us collectively because we are the children of God, the first born on planet Earth since time immemorial. Islam. So we'll close out. Peace and love, Moors. We'll get back next week with another open discussion session. In the meantime, Enjoy your evening and the rest of the week. Long live the Empire and His Majesty the Sultan, Abdul Smith Al Kabir.
Long live the
Peace and love.
empire and his majesty the
Calling this
Sultan,
man shit
Islam.
assaulted. Islam.
Peace
Islam. Peace and
and
love.
love. That's right.
Love.
That's right.
Islam. How you leave?
Long live the empire. Mhm.